At the very beginning of the operation, the battle was not fought with ships or soldiers, but with information. At 1,500 miles per hour, the AGM-88 HARM missile doesn't just hit a radar. It hunts it. The moment the Iranian search radar at Bandar Abbas emits a signal, it signs its own death warrant. Within seconds, the missile locks onto the frequency, closes the distance, and strikes with surgical precision. The impact is immediate. The radar dish is torn apart, its sensors blinded, its data stream cut to zero. Before the system can even process what has happened, a second missile follows, targeting the residual heat signature and destroying the power infrastructure beneath it. This is not just destruction. It is silence. Simultaneously, high above the Gulf, an EA-18G growler begins flooding the electromagnetic spectrum with concentrated digital noise. Every frequency used by Iranian air defenses is overwhelmed. Radar returns become meaningless. Communication channels collapse. Commanders are left staring at screens that no longer reflect reality. And that is the true objective. Because modern warfare doesn't begin by destroying the enemy's weapons. It begins by destroying their ability to understand what is happening. In that moment, Iran's entire defensive network enters a state of confusion. Their systems are still physically intact in some areas, but they are no longer connected, no longer coordinated, no longer effective. The battlefield has been reshaped into an environment where one side sees clearly, and the other sees nothing. This is what the United States calls information dominance. And it creates a critical window. A window where the enemy cannot react, not because they are weak, but because they are blind. And in warfare, blindness is more dangerous than destruction. Because once the sensors go dark, everything that follows becomes inevitable. While Iran is still trying to understand what just happened, the next phase is already in motion. Inside the cargo bay of AC-17 Globemaster III, the atmosphere is controlled, precise, and silent. Thousands of paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division stand ready, packed in tight formations, each soldier part of a larger equation. Their deployment is not random, it is timed down to the second. The jump light turns green. And within moments, they are gone, pouring out of the aircraft into the darkness below. This is vertical envelopment. For decades, Iran built its defenses facing the sea. Mines, coastal missiles, naval patrols, all designed to stop an invasion from the water. But this attack does not come from the horizon. It comes from above. The brilliance of this maneuver is not just in its execution, but in its timing. Iran's radar systems have just been neutralized. Their communication network is disrupted. Their command structure is struggling to regain coherence. And in that exact moment, thousands of soldiers are descending into their territory. By the time Iranian commanders begin to piece together what is happening, it is already too late. Because the 82nd Airborne does not deploy in small numbers. It deploys in scale. Within hours, 2,000 troops can establish a foothold. Within 18 hours, an entire division, up to 18,000 soldiers, it can be on the ground. And that changes the equation completely. This is no longer a naval confrontation. It is now a multi-domain operation, where control of land becomes just as important as control of sea and air. The defenders are forced into an impossible situation. They were prepared to fight ships. Instead, they are facing an enemy that has bypassed every layer of their defense. And once forces are on the ground, the battlefield is no longer about denial. It becomes about control. At the center of this operation is not a ship, or a missile, or even a soldier. It is a system. High above the battlefield, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye aircraft circles at 25,000 feet, acting as the central nervous system of the entire operation. Its radar doesn't just scan, it integrates. Every signal it receives is processed, analyzed, and distributed across a network that connects aircraft, ships, missile batteries, and ground forces into a single, unified structure. This is known as the kill web. Unlike traditional warfare, where each unit operates with limited information, the kill web ensures that every asset sees the same battlefield in real time. A missile launch detected by one sensor is instantly shared across the network. A target identified by an aircraft is immediately assigned to the most effective interceptor, whether that is a destroyer at sea or a THAAD battery hundreds of miles away. The decision-making process is no longer linear. It is instantaneous. For example, if an Iranian ballistic missile is detected during launch, the system does not wait for human confirmation. It calculates trajectory, predicts impact, and assigns the best available defense within seconds. By the time a human operator fully understands the situation, the response is already underway. This creates a critical advantage: speed. In warfare, the side that processes information faster doesn't just react better, it controls the entire tempo of the battle. Iran's system, built on human communication and hierarchical decision-making, operates in minutes. The US system operates in seconds. And in those seconds, the outcome is decided. Because while Iran is still trying to observe and orient, the United States has already decided and acted. This is not just technological superiority. It is a different way of fighting. And once that difference is established, the rest of the battle becomes a matter of execution. Once the kill web is active, the next objective is not destruction, but isolation. Iran's air defense systems, including advanced platforms like the S-300, are designed to track, lock, and engage targets at long range. On paper, they are formidable. But they rely on one critical element: signal clarity. And that is exactly what gets taken away. The EA-18G Growler doesn't just jam broadly, it targets precisely. It identifies the exact frequencies used by Iranian radar systems and injects concentrated bursts of energy directly into them. The result is not simple interference. It is distortion. False returns. Phantom targets. Dead zones. Entire sections of the radar network go dark. Others become unreliable. And in warfare, unreliable information is often worse than no information at all. Because it leads to hesitation. Missiles are not fired because targets cannot be confirmed. Systems hesitate to activate for fear of revealing their position. Commanders delay decisions, unsure of what is real and what is deception. This is how a defense collapses without being physically destroyed. In the middle of this artificial silence, another asset moves into position, the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. It does not rush. It does not maneuver aggressively. It simply moves forward, unseen. Its payload has already been released. Each GBU-31JDAM is programmed with precision coordinates, bunker vents, radar arrays, hardened facilities. These are not random strikes. They are targeted at the critical nodes that hold the defense system together. By the time the bombs reach their targets, there is no warning. No tracking. No interception. And just like that, the structure behind Iran's defense begins to collapse, and not from overwhelming force, but from the systematic removal of its ability to function. By the time the first American boots approach the ground, the battle has already been decided at a deeper level. Iran's defense doesn't fail because it lacks weapons. It fails because it loses time. In military theory, this is known as the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act. It is the cycle that governs every decision on the battlefield. The side that completes this loop faster gains control. And in this operation, that loop is completely broken. Iran can no longer observe accurately, its radar is jammed or destroyed. It cannot orient itself, conflicting information floods what remains of its systems. It cannot decide, because command structures are disconnected. And it cannot act, because by the time a decision is made, the situation has already changed. Meanwhile, the United States operates inside a compressed timeline. Sensors detect. Systems analyze. Weapons deploy. All within seconds. This difference is not incremental, it is exponential. Because every second lost by one side is a second gained by the other. When the 82nd Airborne begins its descent, Iranian commanders are still trying to understand why their radar screens went silent. By the time reports start to form, communications are already disrupted again. Orders are delayed. Responses are fragmented. And in warfare, fragmentation leads to collapse. This is the moment where resistance becomes reactive instead of proactive. Where defenders stop controlling the battlefield and start responding to it. And once that shift happens, the outcome is no longer uncertain. It is inevitable. While the airborne forces establish control inland, the second half of the operation strikes from the sea, but not in the way Iran expected. For decades, Iran prepared for a traditional amphibious assault. Warships approaching the coastline. Landing craft moving toward beaches. Marines advancing under fire. But that is not what happens. Instead, the assault begins from over the horizon. The USS Tripoli, an America-class amphibious assault ship, positions itself well beyond the effective range of coastal artillery. From its deck, MV-22 Ospreys launch into the air. These aircraft are neither helicopters nor planes, they are both. They take off vertically, then accelerate forward like fixed-wing aircraft. This combination allows them to bypass the most dangerous part of any amphibious assault, the approach. They don't move through defended waters. They fly over them. Within minutes, Marines are inserted directly onto key positions across Karg Island. Supporting them are AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters, providing close air support with precision. Their cannons suppress defensive positions, while Hellfire missiles eliminate armored threats and fortified structures. The effect is immediate. Iranian defenders are not facing a slow, predictable landing. They are facing rapid, concentrated insertion at multiple points. At the same time, LCAC hovercraft bring in heavy armor, M1A1 Abrams tanks, directly onto terrain previously considered inaccessible. This forces defenders to spread out, covering more ground than they can realistically defend. And that is the key. The Marines do not attack everywhere. They concentrate. They identify the most critical vulnerability, the desalination plants and power infrastructure, and seize it. Because on Karg Island, water is survival. And once you control survival, you control the outcome. While the Marines secure the surface and the airborne forces lock down key terrain inland, the most sensitive phase of the operation unfolds far from the front lines, deep inside Iranian territory, where visibility is lowest and the margin for error is zero. This is where Special Operations Forces take over, not to fight a conventional battle, but to remove strategic threats before they can ever be used, flying at extremely low altitude, sometimes less than 50 feet above the ground, MH-47G. Chinooks operated by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment move through the terrain using terrain-following radar, staying beneath detection envelopes and avoiding what remains of Iran's internal air defense network. Their destination is not symbolic, it is critical, the nuclear facility at Isfahan, where enriched uranium represents not just a weapon, but leverage. Once on the ground, Delta Force operates with precision and speed, securing the material, isolating the facility, and preparing extraction within minutes, every movement calculated, every second accounted for. At the same time, along the coastline, SEAL Team 6 approaches submerged, using underwater delivery vehicles to reach missile bases hidden beneath terrain on islands like Keshem. Their objective is not to engage directly, but to disable the ability to launch, placing demolition charges at key structural points, ensuring that if Iran attempts retaliation, the infrastructure itself will collapse before a missile ever leaves the ground. This is not separate from the broader operation, it is integrated, interdependent, each action enabling the next, ensuring that while ground forces advance, the strategic threats behind them are already neutralized, creating a battlefield where the enemy is not just pushed back, but systematically stripped of options. Iran does not remain passive. Despite the collapse of its systems and the speed of the assault, it responds with everything it has left, launching a large-scale asymmetric counterattack designed not to win outright, but to disrupt momentum. Thousands of drones are released into the air, combined with fast attack boats and ballistic missiles, creating a layered offensive meant to overwhelm the system through volume rather than precision. On paper, it is a dangerous strategy, cheap weapons forcing expensive responses, turning cost into a weapon. But this is where the assumption breaks down, because the United States does not respond symmetrically. Instead of wasting high-value interceptors on low-cost drones, it uses electronic warfare to disrupt their guidance systems. GPS signals are spoofed or denied entirely, causing drones to lose direction and fall harmlessly into the sea. Only the most critical threats, such as ballistic missiles, are engaged with systems like THAAD and Patriot, intercepting them at high altitude before they can reach their targets. This creates an economic imbalance, where Iran spends resources to launch attacks that generate minimal effect, while the US neutralizes them efficiently, turning the cost equation against the attacker. At the same time, the integrated network continues to adapt in real time, identifying launch points, tracking movements, and feeding targeting data back into the system, ensuring that every attack is not just defended against, but traced back to its source and eliminated. The result is not just a failed counterattack, but a system that collapses under its own inefficiency, unable to sustain pressure against a network that evolves faster than it can respond. At this stage, the conflict is no longer defined by individual engagements, but by systemic failure. Iran's strategy relied on lead defenses, static positions, and delayed decision-making, all of which depend on coordination and time, but both have been removed. Their missile batteries remain in place, but without reliable targeting data, they cannot operate effectively. Their forces remain on the ground, but without communication, they cannot coordinate. Their command structure still exists, but it is disconnected, fragmented, and slow. This is where the difference between the two systems becomes decisive. The US operates through a kill web, where sensors, shooters, and decision-making are connected instantly, reducing the time between detection and action to seconds. Iran operates through human communication, where information must be passed, interpreted, and approved, taking minutes. And in modern warfare, minutes are the difference between action and irrelevance. By the time an Iranian commander understands what is happening, the situation has already changed, his position is already targeted, his options already reduced. This is not just a tactical disadvantage, it is a structural one, because once the speed gap becomes too large, recovery is no longer possible. The system does not fail gradually, it collapses all at once, leaving isolated units without support, without coordination, and without a path forward, turning what was once a defensive network into a collection of disconnected points, each vulnerable on its own. As the sun rises over the Strait of Hormuz, the battlefield no longer reflects chaos, it reflects control. The islands that once served as defensive strongholds are now logistical hubs, supporting continuous operations. Karg Island, once the center of Iran's oil export system, is no longer a source of revenue, but a point of leverage, its infrastructure intact but under new control. The desalination plants and power systems now serving the occupying force, ensuring sustainability. The airborne units maintain positions inland, cutting off movement and preventing regrouping, while naval forces establish a continuous presence across the strait, escorting vessels, monitoring activity, and ensuring that the flow of global trade resumes without interruption. This is the final objective, not destruction, but certainty, because global systems do not operate on reduced risk, they operate on confidence, and confidence only returns when control is visible and sustained. The cost of the operation is measured in billions, but the impact is measured in stability. Energy markets normalize, shipping resumes, and the strategic map is rewritten. The lesson is clear: firepower alone does not win wars, sequence does, speed does, integration does. Iran built a defense designed to stop ships, but the United States did not fight with ships alone, it fought with a system, one that sees faster, decides faster, and acts faster, and in doing so, it did not just win the battle for Hormuz, it redefined how that battle is fought.